Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Great.
My name is Rob Tufel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the executive director here, and I just want to welcome you to the nutrition class, which you know we hold every Monday. But this week we get to tape it, which is pretty exciting, and we have folks here from Create TV who are going to be taping it for us. And we also have somebody from Xilinx here behind. Hello, Brady. And Xilinx are the reason we're able to do this. They're providing a grant to Create TV to help us film this, as well as some other exciting things they're providing. So thank you very much. They're also, I should add, I'm just going to put a plug in too, they also provided us a grant. We're also working with Create TV. We have a teen support group, I think many of you know, for teens whose parents have cancer. So we're going to offer the teens a 5-day video training, and then they're going to make a video together about their experience about being kids dealing with parents who have cancer. So that's really amazing. So I want to welcome you all here. As I mentioned, we're really excited. This is going to go up on our website. We also hope to put it on Access on public TV as well, so it'll be on some of the public TV stations. But we'll let you know when that happens. So I appreciate you all participating in this as well. And just a few rules as we're going through. Rules. That sounds terrible. Just a few suggestions. Because it's being filmed, I know this is a really lively group. It always sounds like, actually, when I'm in my office, it sounds like there are 500 people in my nutrition class. So if you can limit your side conversations, because they'll all get picked up, unless you want them to get picked up, obviously. If you can limit your side conversations, that would be great, and we're going to try not to talk back there as well. And also, we're just going to keep the same format. You know, keep it loose. If you have questions, I'm sure some of you have questions already, right?
Yeah.
Feel free to jump in, just like we always
Sure.
do, and let's keep it lively and natural. And you'll forget about the cameras in 2 minutes.
Right.
And we have such a great presentation. We have Nancy Barang, who everybody know, a wonderful nutritionist. And we have Florence Schroeder, who all of you know as well, and also Stephanie Fagara, who also I said that correctly?
You did.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
all right. Go
Good.
Steph.
I always want to make it Spanish instead of
Yeah.
So, you know, they're fantastic, and they're going to be talking about a subject that I think is really great, foods that can help our memory.
Absolutely.
Who can't use that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody.
So
All right.
with that, I'm going to turn it over to our incredible nutritionist, and thank you all for being here, and onward and upward. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So everybody have a handout? You have a handout called Boost Your Brain Power. Brain. It's an important organ. It's one of my personal favorites. We really, I need this one. We need it to be working well. In order to work well, we have to have it nourished, and we have to have it hydrated. So Stephanie and Florence and I, look what we got going up here for you. We have this beautiful brain-nourishing bowl of berries. You have a recipe in your handout for a bowl of berries. And we're going to put a dollop of cashew cream on top of our bowl of berries just to add that extra yum and that extra creamy fattiness that helps us absorb our nutrients. And because fat's so important, we made your favorite sardine salad. And we call this, and what's the name of the recipe? Somebody want to read the recipe, the name of the recipe? They'll never know it's sardine salad, because when you say sardines, everybody's nose just crinkles up. Ooh, how many people like sardines? All right. You're in the right place. So those of you who are just on the fence, maybe you don't know about sardines, or you're just a little bit bigoted about sardines, I think we're going to hope to change your mind. When we mix it in a salad and we put our veggies and we put a yummy dressing and our herbs and our spices, it tastes so wonderful. My daughter thinks it's tuna fish. I never told her. She says, oh, that's so good. What is that? I says, I don't know. She says, is it tuna fish? I'm like, yeah, it's fish. Right? So boosting your brain power. It's a pertinent thing to think about, because as we age, we can experience cognitive decline, brain fog, can be part of the brain aging, just like other parts of the body age, but it doesn't have to age. Just like we can protect our hearts, we want to protect our brains, and if we have the right amount of nutrition, we have nourishment, we have hydration, we have oxygenation, we can actually slow down that brain aging process and have our brains operating at optimal health. chemotherapy associated cognitive decline also happens as well. How many people have ever experienced chemo brain or chemo fogginess, or just a little bit, maybe not thinking so sharp, or focus is a little bit off, short-term memory? I mean, that can happen without chemo, but it can happen as a result of chemotherapy drugs. But also, it's many factors that play into that. The stress that's associated with chemotherapy or with treatment, or the stress that's associated with being on the cancer journey, that plays a lot with this as well. So how many people have experienced chemotherapy side effects? What would you say that was like, chemo brain? If you had to describe that, how would you describe that?
Like watching my mom when she was suffering with Alzheimer's.
Watching your mom when she was suffering with Alzheimer's.
Word loss.
Word loss.
Yeah.
Trying to explain it to somebody that has not experienced it.
Trying to explain what chemo brain is
they look at you kind of weird.
to someone who's never experienced that before.
I always wanted to sleep.
Excuse me?
I always wanted to sleep.
You always wanted to sleep. So you noticed a change. You just noticed a change in cognitive ability or focusing or in concentration. So what can we do about it? You know, what is under our control? So we know that what we eat, what we drink is under our control, and that how can we nourish our brains so that we can be on our game and we can be sharp and we can be smart. So we're going to start with what? What's the first one I'm always talking about? Hydration. So we've got our hydration station going on up here. So we're going to pass out a sample of a spa water. All right, so a spa water, a water infusion. I put some chopped sliced cucumbers, sliced lemon. I could put a little mint. I almost put a little bit of grapefruit, but my daughter said, no, that'd be a little bit weird. But what do you think? Grapefruit? Do you think grapefruit would go in there? Experiment with what you want to infuse your water. What kind of spa water do you want to have? When you add a little bit of lemon or cucumber or mint or even a pinch of salt, what you're doing are adding minerals. You add minerals to the water. That helps the water get into the cells. And it also makes the water more delicious, refreshing, and more fun. Because we do need to drink more water. And we know that dehydration really hurts the brain. Dehydration decreases mental energy, impairs memory, and this is something that's under our control. When our brains are dehydrated, that's a huge stress. Stress hurts our brain. So staying hydrated is something that you can do. How much water should you drink? It's individual. It's going to depend on your body size, the temperature, what's going on with you, your activity level. In general, it's about 2 to 3 quarts a day. Add a little bit of minerals, a little bit of lemon to that. Some tips is keep a water bottle with you. For example, I keep one of these guys. I lost the cap, which is a bummer. I hope I can get another one of these. Or I noticed that she has one that's a better size. Yeah, so this is a cool one. That's a pretty color, too. Look at that. It's aqua. Oh, look at, she's got a pink one going on. Yeah. So this is one of my favorites because it's glass. You don't want to have plastic. You want to have glass, or you have titanium steel. And if I drop it, it's got this cool little plastic cover on it, so it's not going to break. So, and I'll put a little bit of lemon, I'll put cucumber, mint, and I carry this, and I'll have about, of that size bottle, I'll have about 2 or 3 of those a day. But sometimes I may have a broth. I may drink a mineral broth. And if I'm having a lot of fruits or vegetable, that goes towards my water intake as well. And we do want to have purified water. You don't really want to have tap water. And purified water can be reverse osmosis, like when you go buy it in the store. So you can buy bottled water. You can install a purification setup that goes underneath your sink as well, because the excess chlorine can be a problem.
What about if you drink coconut water?
Coconut water, drinking coconut water, it's good. Look for one that has the lowest amount of sugar.
Oh, okay.
And coconut water is really good for right after a workout because you'll replace carbohydrates. You'll replace electrolytes, and you'll be replacing your fluids, your water. Just be really careful that it doesn't have added sugar and that it doesn't have a lot of other additives. So there's one called Pure. Pure is one of my favorite brands.
Little bottle in the water section.
Oh, okay.
So did everybody get a little sample of our spa water?
Is the Brita filter okay?
I don't think the Brita is good enough. There's another one that has come out that's better. The only time I like the Brita is if it's the second pass through. If you've got one under your sink or you've got reverse osmosis and then you pass it through a Brita as well. The Brita doesn't remove everything. There's a new one that's come out called Purvela, Purvela, and that is one of those personal, smaller size filtration units that seems to be the best on the market so far, Purvela, and in terms of just how many of the contaminants that it will take out, especially the chlorine. I like to have a filter in my shower as well. Too much chlorine is not a good thing.
Because you breathe it in.
You're breathing it in as well. So where are you getting the chlorine? You're getting it from all different places, and we know that chlorine can be kind of disruptive of your thyroid function. So as much as possible, we want our water to be purified, not distilled, but purified. So what'd you think of our spa water? Huh? Anybody have any other ideas of what they want to infuse in? No? The cucumber, yeah.
I saw a recipe that I was doing a lot last summer with just sliced apples, put it in the
I haven't
refrigerator.
tried, but you know what?
Really
Here we
good.
go. We've got a whole plate of. Yeah, let's just add some. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, that's nice.
I've been using organic strawberries, sliced strawberries.
Oh,
That flavors the water.
here we got those too.
I use sliced ginger, and I normally drink
Oh, an infusion of sliced. So another thing you could do is you could add a little bit of heat to that. So you could, in that jar, I could take that jar and I could put it out in the sun, and I could make a sun-infused tea. And that's really fun. So having fun with your hydration, you know, keeping hydrated. And once you start drinking more, initially you may need to go to the restroom more often, but eventually that will balance out. Yes?
Now, when you make your water like that, is it better on a glass or a plastic?
Glass is definitely better.
Okay.
Yeah, we're concerned about things like BPA, and plus glass just seems nicer. It's not as reactive. So definitely, and you don't want to have a ceramic pitcher either. We're worried about lead. So hydrating, so good, but make it fun. What's the second one? Let's see, hydration, we got that one down. Number 2 way to nourish and give my brain everything it needs is balancing blood sugar. What do I mean by balancing blood sugar? It's not skipping meals, but not have regular consistent meals, but not having meals that are going to shoot up your blood sugar. What kind of foods would shoot up your blood sugar?
Pure juice.
Simple carbs, the stuff we like, the cookies, the crackers, refined flours. So high blood sugar or low blood sugar can hurt your brain. Your brain is 2% of your body weight, but it uses up 20% of your body's energy intake. Right? Because there's so much going on up there, or at least we want there to be a lot going on up there, right? So it really is a nutrient hog. We need to give it steady, consistent energy. And if we don't, if we go for a while without eating, that is a big stress on the brain. And if we take in foods that jack up our blood sugar, that's a big stress. So what we want to do is enjoy regular meals of high quality foods with our proteins and our fat.
I have a question regarding that.
Yeah.
What about coconut sugar?
Well, small amounts. That coconut sugar is just like any other sugar. It has a little bit more nutrition, but glycemically it's going to have the same effect. So sugars that you want to enjoy, honey, maple syrup, all those are nutritive, but they're still sugars, so small amounts of sugars. So one of my favorite sugars are actually these little dudes. These dates. And so this is what I use to make a cashew cream, and we'll talk more about that later. So if I'm going to use a sweetener in a recipe, rather than using sugar, whether it's coconut sugar, brown sugar, those are all still sugar. I would much rather use a whole food. So I'll take a date, and I'll try to remember to take the pit out before I put it into the blender, and I'll mix a little water in it, and that's what my sweetener is. Another thing I really like to do is when I get sweet cravings, I put these guys in the freezer, and then it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've been doing a lot of computer work. I'll say, oh, I've got my sweet. I'll go to the freezer and take out my date. And because it's frozen, I can't eat it fast. And I just sort of like eat it slowly. And it very nicely satisfies my desire for a sweet, especially with a cup of tea. Okay, so we're hydrating. We're balancing our blood sugar. And our brain is saying, thank you so much. I'm now ready to do calculus. I could do calculus before, but maybe. Okay, what's the third one? What's the next one? Somebody tell me. But just feed your brain? Color. Color feeds your brain. Okay, here we go. Color feeds your brain with rainbow foods. Rainbow foods contain pigments. The thing about these pigments is they're chock full of what we call antioxidants that can buffer out free radicals. Free radicals are these supercharged molecules, and they can cause damage to our tissues, like our brain tissue. But all the hundreds of compounds that are in these particular foods balance out these free radicals, take them out of circulation before they can do damage. Now, what else causes free radicals? An aging process. High sugar. Going through a chemotherapy treatment is a free radical process. It's like getting a huge military strike. We know that, but it's short term, and it's targeting. It's just going to like take out that tumor, decrease the tumor burden, but we want to make sure that we can handle any collateral damage. So we want to be nutritionally very strong before our treatments, nutritionally very strong during and after, so that we can manage those hits that we're taking. So eating a rainbow every single day. Before you go to bed at night, you have to do this little checklist. Did I have, and I've had people say, oh my gosh, I didn't have purple. It's like, it's okay. The next day, double up on blueberries or eggplant. So we've got to get into this little mental checklist of, are you having a rainbow every single day? And it should be delicious. And try to diversify your rainbow. Don't just have the same greens. Don't just eat kale all the time. Get in some arugula, right? Get in some other, have an okra, have a vegetable you've never had before. So plant nutrients protect against oxidative stress. Hundreds and hundreds of compounds. So in our berries, Stephanie made this awesome salad. We've got many different kinds of berries, strawberries, blackberries, we've got blueberries. What are in these guys? Flavonoids, hundreds of flavonoids in berries. Ellagic acid is in a strawberry. A strawberry is the coolest fruit. It's the only fruit that actually has seeds on the outside. But it has to be organic because you can't get any of the chemicals off. It's so very, very, very porous. The cool thing is that the compounds in plants are multitaskers. So we know we've got hundreds of flavonoids. We know that strawberries have not only hundreds of flavonoids, but they have ellagic acid. What does ellagic acid do? Ellagic acid is one of the key players that shuts down angiogenesis. Has anybody heard of angiogenesis? Anybody taken a drug called Avastin? Avastin is one of these major pharmaceuticals that actually knocks off angiogenesis. It's the process by which cancer cells nourish themselves. When a cancer cell gets beyond a certain size, it needs a blood supply. It sends out growth factors. It says, grow blood vessels to me, right? We don't want that, so we knock it off. The ellagic acid in our berries is just one of the compounds that can say, nope, No, shut off angiogenesis. But when we're eating our berries, are we thinking, I'm getting in my allergic acid and I'm not angiogenesis? No, we're thinking, oh my God, these berries are absolutely amazing. They're in season, they're sweet, they're wonderful. I absolutely love them. Resveratrol is in berries. That's the anti-aging. Protects from DNA damage. Lutein in spinach and kale. Punicalgins in pomegranates. I don't know who thinks up these words. But, so the point is EGCG in green tea, quercetin in apples and red onions. And these are just a small fraction of all the compounds that are in all the different rainbow foods that you're eating. How wonderful is that? That you're eating and enjoying these foods and you are affecting these molecular processes that are basically saying no to the cancer process. That's the power of healthy eating.
This is a practical question. I love the wonderful fresh things and the green stuff. I'm an individual, and if I shop for a whole bunch of something,
Yeah.
most of it goes to waste.
Good.
And how do we compensate for that?
Well, if you go to a farmer's market, it's bulk and you can basically take what you want and you can measure it out. So I would suggest going to your farmer's market. First of all, you can find out what's fresh and then you can just get smaller servings because you're right, organic doesn't last very long either.
You can also freeze it and mix smoothies.
And that's a good idea as well.
Yeah, you can freeze it and mix smoothies.
Or use frozen berries.
Oh, well, yeah.
Good idea.
Thank you.
The next one is build your brain with healthy fats. In our society, there's been a little bit of a fat phobia going on. So non-fat this, non-fat that, and non-fat is healthy. And what happens when we're all non-fat? We have a non-fat yogurt. They have to put artificial chemicals in there to make it palatable. They have to put artificial sweeteners in there because it doesn't taste good. So we need to actually have whole foods with real amount of fat because that's what makes it palatable and that's what your body knows what to do with. Smaller amounts of healthy fat in the diet. Your brain is 60% fat. So when they say fathead, it's not necessarily an insult. Omega-3s are the superstars. Omega-3s actually affect molecular signaling. It's how our nerve transmit. They know that people who are deficient in omega-3 fats have a much higher rate of cognitive decline. So where do we get our omega-3s? Guess what?
Fish oil.
People take fish oil as supplements, but eat fish. Eat cold water fish. So you have salmon, you have sardines, you have anchovies, haddock, cod. The cold water oily fish have a higher amount of omega-3s. These are the guys that feed your brain. There are other types of fats such as coconut, olives. These are other things that are just wonderful for your brain. Egg yolks. How many people here think egg whites are a health food? I have trained you well. You go out to breakfast and it says the healthy breakfast is egg whites. It's like, who thought of that? You know, does a chicken lay egg whites? No. We want to have the whole egg, but it should come from a chicken that is pastured, that's pecking around eating bugs, that has a good life, because the yolk is where the choline is. Choline makes acetylcholine, which makes your brain work. So yolks are a brain food. Love my eggs. So the next thing is,
That's a question.
yes,
I have a question about the fish. I think my dilemma is it's so hard to know farm raised. I mean, there's so many
good
things
question.
vegetarian, but
Yeah,
you know, like,
you do the
kind of
best.
buyer beware.
You do the best that you can, and when you can, you want to get wild, okay? Wild is the way to go, and actually going to the store and talking to, like if you go to Whole Foods, and Whole Foods generously supports our program, they donate vegetables and fruits and foods to us. The guys behind the fish counter are very knowledgeable, and I'm always saying, well, what's fresh? So I went into Whole Foods last week and said, oh, this salmon has just come in.
So you don't have to worry about environmental pollution in the ocean.
We worry about it, but what are we going to do?
But you at farm raised,
You do the best that you
they're
can.
controlling more of the environment that they're raised in.
No, it's the other way around.
it's really, it's a tough one, and you do the best that you can. And
We live on Guadalupe Creek and like you're now.
right.
Yeah.
Generally, wild is better, and generally in the north, around Scandinavia and Alaska, is pretty good. That's why we go for the smaller fish, because they don't live long enough to sequester the mercury and the toxins. This is the reason for the small fish.
The farm raised, if you read up on the farm raised, because they're farmed and kept in such close confines and there's so many of them, they have to treat them with antibiotics.
Right.
They treat them with all kinds of things too.
And
We was manage us.
there are some farms, so that's a good point, that farm raised, because it's just like how they raise cows or pigs or other animals. Are they being sustainably raised? What are they being fed? Because the fish is going to be a shortage, there are some really sustainable farms in Scotland and parts of Scandinavia that are really trying very hard to feed the fish with more like what they eat. So knowing if it's a farm fish, what it's eating. Right now, for the most part, we can still get wild. Promoting healthy blood flow, preventing abnormal blood clotting. So we know that circulation is a big thing. We think of our hands and our feet. If they get cold, that's not good peripheral circulation. Well, guess what? Our head's an extremity too. So we want to make sure we're getting circulation to our brain, and we want to make sure we're not getting abnormal clotting, right? What helps us there? Omega-3 fats. This is what I like about foods. They're multitaskers. You don't just get one effect. You get anti-inflammatory effect, prevents abnormal clotting, feeds your brain. Such a deal. And it tastes wonderful. The pharmaceutical companies are knocking themselves out to find pharmaceutical agents that can do even affect one of the pathways that some of our food compounds affect. So that's the wonderful thing about our foods. So promoting healthy blood flow, preventing abnormal blood clotting, and we know cancer is an abnormal blood clotting process. We know any disease process, heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, these chronic diseases tend to be pro-clotting. What can we do to keep our blood flowing well? Well, omega-3 fats, magnesium, and here's where garlic, as much as you can have in your food, your garlic, your ginger, and turmeric. Of course, if you're on a medication like Coumadin, you discuss with your doctor. With any foods or changes you're making to your diet, you always want to include your doctors in on the plan. Your doctors are part of your team. You say, hey, I'm going to this nutritionist. She's kind of out there. And she says, I should be having lots of garlic. What do you think about that? And he'll say, oh, you're on Coumadin, maybe not. So there are some individuality that we have to take into account here. But so adding some garlic, ginger, and turmeric. And then anemia. Anemia, if you think about it, how does blood, oxygen gets to our brain through blood? If the blood doesn't have enough oxygen because we're anemic, then that can be another reason why the brain is just not getting everything that it needs. So we want to have our blood-building foods. This is our meats. Our organ meats are pretty good. Caviar. Black caviar is one of the traditional blood-building foods. Any caviar. Our bone broth that we talk about, our chicken feet bone broth that we're always having with our gelatin, nourishes the bones. Not all anemia is iron deficiency. So if you're not iron deficient, you don't want to take iron. So it's important that you discuss with your doctor. If he says you're anemic, it's a bone marrow anemia. Differentiate if it's low iron, because you definitely don't want to be taking iron on the cancer journey. Cancer cells use iron, right? Most anemia is bone marrow anemia. That's where we use our bone blood-building foods. I like bee pollen and royal jelly. Bee foods are very building, very anabolic foods. They help us nourish our bone marrow.
When you speak of organ meat, do you mainly mean liver? Or?
Liver's the top in terms of nutrition, but all the organ meats are actually very, very rejuvenating. In traditional cultures, they would give it to women postpartum or to warriors. We've gotten away from organ meats, and now they're coming back because they're so nutritious, and it's a wonderful way to build your blood. Herbs and supplements, now this is where you really need to check with your medical doctor, because everybody's individual, and you can get interactions with your medications or with your treatment. So herbs and supplements, not a good idea to self-treat with herbs and supplements because you read something online or you listened to Dr. Oz or Oprah. Be really cautious. Check with your medical doctor. Work with somebody who's knowledgeable and skillful. In general, for our brain, what are we talking about for supplements? A high-quality fish oil. You don't want to go to Costco or Rite Aid and get some fish oil. Remember we were talking about farm-raised and crappy fish and that? You really do want to get top of the line here. Nordic Naturals is one line that I really like. Top of the line. This is one place not to skimp. Those omega-3 fats. A lot of people take fish oil for brain health, also for anti-inflammation. Vitamin D is very important. Low vitamin D, higher risk for cognitive decline. The data is overwhelming. When we take extra vitamin D, we want to take extra vitamin K. Vitamin D tells us to absorb more calcium. Vitamin K tells us to get that calcium into the bones instead of, say, depositing on the heart valves. So really important to talk to your doctor about testing your vitamin D. Have a dialogue with your medical doctor. Hey, should I be taking vitamin D? He'll say, well, let's do a test and see where it's at. You don't want to have too much. You want just the right amount of vitamin D. And then vitamin E is another one of those very important supplements. We get it from food, but because it is so good at nourishing the blood and keeping it flowing freely, also the data is very strong that vitamin E deficiency is a high risk factor for cognitive decline. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin, nourishes fat. Your brain is mostly fat. So if you're vitamin E deficient, that's a problem. Of course, we want to get most of our food, most of our goodies from our food. But sometimes when we're playing catch up, we take a little bit of supplements just as boosters. And then I put holy basil Tulsi tea. Who's had holy basil Tulsi tea before? What do you think?
I love it. I have a ginger flavor. It's mixed with ginger, and I make a cup every morning, but then I put a ton of ice in one of those glass containers, and I make iced tea out of it.
With holy basil. So you make a holy basil infusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Tulsi tea.
What's good about,
I don't know what it is.
Holy basil is an herb, and it's an adaptogenic herb that helps you adapt to stress. So it helps calm, it nourishes the nervous system, totally safe with everything, and you can have it as a tea. So Tulsi is holy basil tea, and you can make a very strong Tulsi tea and sip on it all day long. It's very calming. And how does this help your brain? And that stress hurts your brain.
It's also good for depression.
Really good for depression and anxiety as well. It's a plant. It looks like basil. It's a plant that's common in Ayurvedic Indian medicine. And so you can get it at Whole Foods, and there'll be a box of tea said holy basil, or you can get loose Tulsi tea. The tea will say Tulsi tea. There's different flavors, or you can get loose Tulsi tea.
Are they the same thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Holy basil and Tulsi tea the same. So Tulsi tea is a tea version of holy basil.
Okay.
So anything that's going to help us calm and not be stressed is going to protect our brain. Stress hurts our brain. Tulsi tea is one of those wonderful herbs. Holy basil, Tulsi tea helps to sort of even things off. So adaptogenic herbs are one of my favorite. Did you have a question?
So the holy basil is a tea in a box,
Yes.
and the Tulsi tea is...
No, I'm sorry. Holy basil, Tulsi is holy basil, right? You can get holy basil as a supplement in a capsule.
Oh, okay.
But if you take Tulsi tea, that is holy basil herb.
Okay, and that's what's loose at Whole Foods?
It could be loose or in a tea bag, either one. So Tulsi tea is holy basil.
Have it at Sprouts.
They have it at Sprouts as well. It's very, very nice. You can make a very strong tea. I think we underestimate the medicinal power of teas. Just sipping on a herb tea is a Tulsi tea all day and making an infusion is very, very nice.
And I think you want it organic because you heat it.
Yes, good point. In fact, there's one of my favorite brands of Tulsi tea is Organic India. And you can buy it in a big amount, and I like to use the loose tea. And you can get your own tea bags, empty tea bags, put your Tulsi tea in there. So by having these stress managing herbs, you're kind of like telling your brain, it's okay. We are hydrated, we're nourished, we're rested, we're calm. Yeah, we're going through this really scary cancer journey, but we're doing everything we can to nourish you. Yes?
Now on this, the holy tea, would that be good for an Alzheimer person?
Sure,
Or
it would
do
help.
They get all,
No, it's totally safe. It's probably the safest herb on the planet.
Yeah. Now, because he likes to have sugar
Mhm.
in his tea, because he won't drink it unless it has some
Right.
sweetener, would it be good if I can get the dates and kind of?
Could you try stevia? You might try a little bit of stevia. Because we are worried, right? They call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. So you really want to avoid sugar spikes. So stevia is not going to spike the glucose in the blood. So I would say put in a little bit of stevia. And you know what? You can buy a plant right now, a stevia plant, and take a leaf of the stevia and put it right in your tea. Yeah, it's an annual plant that's available in the spring and the summer. A stevia plant. Go to a nursery and get an organic stevia plant. So you can have your Tulsi tea and your stevia. What a wonderful infusion. And there are other supplements over here, and I think what we're going to do is go ahead and try our yummy omega-3 rich brain nourishing salad with our safe little cute fish, our sardines. Let's serve and look on your recipe for creative ways to enjoy your sardine salad. You can have it in an endive. I once had a client call this a yuppie vegetable. This is, I'm eating all those yuppie vegetables. Endive. And so what we can do is, I know what to do. Let's pass it around and let everybody pick which one they want. So we'll pass the plates, and you can decide, do you want your sardine salad on an endive yuppie vegetable, or a radicchio, or an apple? So what about slicing an apple and putting a dollop on there, an apple cracker? Yeah.
Is it dairy free?
It is dairy free. Absolutely dairy free. In fact, you have the recipe that tells you everything that's in it. I put a.
Miso mayo is.
This is miso mayo right here. It's dairy free. Absolutely. So why sardines? There's a little explanation on the bottom of your recipe. Not only are you getting omega-3 fatty acids for brain, heart, bone health, anti-inflammation, they're one of the few foods that are high in vitamin D. So we know we want to have high vitamin D, but getting it from food is the best.
Can you also use sardines in place of maybe anchovies?
Absolutely, you can use sardines in place of anchovies. Now, these sardines, the scales have been taken off because some people get grossed out with those. If that has bones, that's even better because you're getting extra calcium. And the bones are so, so small, you don't even know that they're there. What do you think? Yeah? All right. You think your folks at home would like this? Would you have a hard time selling this to your family and friends? Even after the PR job that we're doing here? What are some other ways we can make, well, let's see, what else? Vitamin B12, right? We're getting vitamin B12, very, very important for cognition. And selenium. Selenium is the anti-cancer mineral many people are deficient in. Such a deal. You'll never know it's sardines. Do you have some questions? We covered, let's see, how do we nourish our brains? What's number 1? Hydrate. What's number 2?
Balance your blood sugar.
Balance your blood sugar. Number 3?
Colors.
Rainbow. Number 4? Fats. Doesn't have to be fish. Okay, just say you absolutely hate fish. What are some other ways to get omega-3s?
Avocado.
Okay, avocados not as much.
Olive oil? Olives.
I'm thinking nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds are going to give you more of your omega-3s. Is there a better nut? Flax seeds. Flax seeds are pretty good for your omega-3s. So you like 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. They have to be, and make sure it's a good quality. Grind your flaxseed. It's still not as good as fish. It has to get converted again, right? Spirulina is another one. Some people, strict vegetarians, say, well, why don't we just cut the middle animal on the food chain and just eat spirulina? Spirulina is a type of algae.
What about a nut for omega-3s?
Yeah, all the nuts are going to have omega-3s. Some nuts are going to have more omega-3s than other nuts. So all nuts are going to give you some omega-3s. So your nuts and seeds are good. And so that's why we've got our cashew nut butter. You may want to soak them or sprout them to just make that nutrient more absorbable, right?
Also, I noticed when you talked about resveratrol, you didn't mention grapes.
They're very high in grapes, but did you know that blueberries actually have more resveratrol? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There's a brand of yeah.
Even drink a lot of wine in order to get.
And drink a lot, yeah. And you're not going to drink a lot of wine, right? So that's a good point. So when we think, oh, I'm eating my grapes because I'm getting my resveratrol, so we want to have grapes, blueberries, a little bit of wine once in a while, teas. If you have a diverse diet of multiple plant foods of various colors, you're going to be getting all kinds of goodies. The amount of resveratrol that you need that the clinical data is showing actually involves some supplementation, right? But we're going to pick and choose our supplements, how we're taking our supplements, you know. Resveratrol, there's a brand called Reserve Age is the name of the brand that sells resveratrol. They're actually patenting that now. So are we ready for our cashew cream? And so why I put mixed in the berries, and that's a wonderful thing to have, but if you mix in some cashew cream or some creme fraiche, if you want to have dairy, having a dollop of a fat with your berries is actually going to make all those flavonoids and vitamins more absorbable. So all these people on this fat-free diet, they're like missing the boat. You really have to have a little bit of fat. First of all, it tastes wonderful, fills you up so that you're not craving other things, and it helps you absorb the nutrients. And I'm talking a little bit. So a little bit of a fat goes a long way. So this is how I made the cashew cream. I soaked my whole raw cashews overnight. You don't have to soak them overnight. A couple hours, 30 minutes would be enough. And then I soaked my dates overnight. I doubled this recipe, so this recipe is 1 cup. So for 1 cup, I'd probably use 4 pitted dates, soak them, and then I take the soaking water and the dates and I put it in a Vitamix. It works out better if you have a very powerful blender of Vitamix. If you don't, you may have to strain it. It could be a little chunky. You still could do it, but a Vitamix or Blendtec works well. I'll soak my dates so they're soft. I'll include the soaking water. I'll soak my cashews so they're soft. I strain them, rinse them, then I blend everything together, and I used coconut milk. And I used this coconut milk in a box because I wasn't able to find a BPA-free can. So this is only coconut milk, and it added a little bit of creaminess to it. Is everybody using coconut milk? You like coconut milk? So rich and creamy and wonderful. Just feels so good. Little bit of coconut milk. So what are things you can do with cashew cream? How to enjoy cashew cream? Enjoy it as a yummy snack with berries, or a topping on a nice dessert that you made that's a good nutritious dessert. I like to put a dollop of it in a soup. I'll make a carrot ginger soup, and I'll put a dollop of cashew cream in it. It just looks pretty, and it just tastes so wonderful. Adds that creamy wonderfulness, the power of yum, as Rebecca Katz says.
How long will it last?
Couple of days in the refrigerator. Yeah, because it doesn't have preservatives, emulsifiers. So what will happen is it'll separate out, so you can just mix it. So just make as much as you need at one time. Now I put spices in here because spices are very, very healing and contain a lot of anti-cancer agents. So I spice it. I probably would spice this a little more, but since I know not everybody likes things as spicy as I do, I put cinnamon and I put garam masala. Garam masala is an Indian spice blend, and I find that to be very nice. You could add a little bit salt to it if you wanted to. It all depends on what your taste. I find if people are having stomatitis, excuse me, mouth sores, cashew cream is very wonderful. It coats the mouth. How many people have made cashew cream before? Just one? Two? In Rebecca Katz's book, it's in there. There's a recipe for that. Oh, I'll try it later. What do you think?
Excellent.
Kind of surprisingly good.
Huh?
You can,
Surprisingly good.
you can adjust your water and your thickness and stuff too. It makes a nice spread sometimes. You've got a little.
So I'll talk a little bit, because we have some time, unless anybody has questions about our sardine salad or our
Just like chicken.
tastes like chicken. The supplements that if someone is on the Alzheimer's or has pretty significant chemotherapy, cognitive impairment, chemotherapy, cognitive impairment is usually very transient. It will pass, thank gosh, right? There's light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to get your marbles back. We just don't know when. And for some people, it comes back sooner than with others. But there are some supplements that you can take. And of course, you check with your doctor on this. You say, I'm talking to this nutritionist, and she says that these supplements are very helpful, and that there's a lot of clinical data, because everything I discuss has a lot of clinical data. I'm kind of a research junkie. And a lot of these herbs and supplements that are on here, acetylcarnitine, alpha-lipoic, CoQ10, phosphatidylserine, and ginkgo, and then bacopa, gotukola, vinpocetine, herpuricin A, lots of clinical data about these. They're typically taken as part of a formula, right? Because herbs, like food, they like to be with friends. There's this wonderful synergy that goes on with herbs. So we know like bacopa is a Ayurvedic herb, like holy basil, and that's very calming. It's very calming on the brain. It acts on GABA, which is our calming brain hormone. We know that gotukola is very oxygenating, supports circulation. Ginkgo is actually the most famous. Ginkgo is an approved treatment for Alzheimer's in Canada and Germany. Ginkgo is the most studied in terms of clinical data for what can support circulation to the brain and what can protect the brain. So a lot of these supplements you can get in a formula. This is one particular formula called Vibrant Mind. Again, it's not a good idea for you to go out and just order and treat, it's a good idea to work with somebody, and it's a good idea to discuss with your medical doctor. Say, hey, I'm thinking about something like this. Most of the time, the chemo brain thing, it does pass. And I think your first line is your nourishment, is your oxygenation, and that will be your exercise. So brain support, exercise. Exercise is going to support circulation. Sleep. This is where your brain repairs, takes a break. All the tissues. Your brain's still doing all its subconscious stuff, but you need to have your rest time.
That tea would probably be good to
Yes.
have just before you go to bed.
Absolutely. It'd be wonderful to have before you go to bed, and it's also hydrating. Relaxation. Finding techniques that promote relaxation, whether it's progressive muscle relaxation, or whether it's meditation, it's yoga, find what works for you and practice it frequently, and knowing that stress management is calming your brain, and that the calmer your brain is, the less it's going to be damaged by stress. And with that, are there any questions? What did you think about, what was your favorite, the sardine salad or, come on. Well, you notice I strategically did that. I said, okay, maybe the sardine salad won't be 100% hit. So I better, oh, I know, berries. And why did I pick strawberries? Because they're high in ellagic acid? Because they're in season, because they're amazing. They're growing now, and I thought, oh my God, strawberries are just amazing. It's just a Benny that they have like 200 different biological compounds that shut down cancer. Cool. Why do we eat? Eat because it tastes wonderful, because I'm hungry, or I'm with friends and loved ones. And so I thought, okay, if I got the sardine salad, give them the berries. Oh, we got to put a little cashew cream. That'll probably be a hit as well.
Good. I like the cashew.
You like the cashew cream? Yeah. So that's what you got to do. Well, okay. Well, you feel free to ask questions. Thank you to Florence and Stephanie for. Thank you all for being here. And our mint. This is another. It's the best time for herbs. Oh, we forgot to talk about rosemary. Rosemary, we can pass around some rosemary. Just smelling rosemary, I'll keep rosemary on my desk because rosemary is a circulation herb. Rosemary is the herb of remembrance. And any of these herbs that have these very strong smells, you know that this is what...
Nancy, when I take my morning walk, there's rosemary that grows along the trail. And as I'm coming back, I'll just run my hand along it and just smell it. I feel like I'm instantly smarter.
You are. And you know, talk about our infusion. I mean, it could get pretty crowded in here if we keep adding, but maybe you want to be selective of what, but I would infuse some rosemary, you know, wash it out. Rosemary is very protective. It's very potent antioxidant. And it's high in, I think it's ursolic acid, or there's several different extremely potent anti-cancer agents. Rosmarinic acid, I think, is the one that's in there that's studied. And it's just so cool for me to study these herbs and these foods, and they look beautiful. They're giving me healing just by looking at them. They taste wonderful, and then behind the scenes, we have all this wonderful molecular signaling going on. I mean, that's just cool. You know, it's wonderful. So enjoy your plant friends and your herb friends, and, you know, put some rosemary behind your ear. Instant smartness. Yeah.
Sometimes I hear about all these wonderful things that, you know, food can do. And is there anything that you can eat that would interfere, or while you're having, like you're going through chemo, you want some of, sadly, these negative effects to
Right.
work on your tumor?
Yeah, good question.
Do you overdo something
Right.
that would sort of take away the effects?
Yeah, so the question is taking any of these, say, potent antioxidant foods going to negate any of the effects of a radiation or chemotherapy treatment? And that's an excellent question. And my answer would be no. Okay. However, if you overdid it with something, like you tell people blueberries are good and they're going to have gallons and gallons of blueberries, that's probably not a good thing. And as always, you should inform your doctor of any dietary changes that you are making. So if you've had a certain diet for a while and then all of a sudden you start taking in pounds and pounds and pounds of a vegetable, that's probably not a good idea. I wouldn't make drastic diet changes during a treatment time. But what the data has shown, and this is the beauty of plants, is that the compounds in our food, these bright colored foods, contain compounds that actually enhance treatment and protect against the side effects. And even cooler than that, ellagic acid, that seems to be our star botanical compound of the day, that's in strawberries and raspberries and walnuts. We know that it very strongly is cytotoxic to cancer cells and very protective of normal cells. How does it know the difference? Because cancer cells are weird, and our normal cells are kind of chill and cool. Right? And ellagic acid said, okay, we're playing together. So plants are smart. They modulate. They're not like a pharmaceutical that acts on one particular pathway in a very powerful way. They act on multiple pathways at the same time, and they have modulating effects. And so the data is very strong, lots of clinical data, that the compounds in these foods potentiate treatment and mitigate side effects. Your oncologists are nervous, especially about supplements. They don't want you taking supplements during your treatment. And go with that, because they're going according to clinical trials. They don't want variables. But the food, when you have a moderate serving of berries and your cashew cream and your apples, that's what we've always been doing. That's what your body knows how to do it, and that's actually going to be beneficial. It's actually going to potentiate, make your treatments work better, and it's going to protect you from the side effects, and the data is overwhelming. So I worry sometimes when I hear some professionals say, oh, don't eat blueberries during your treatment. That's craziness, I think. Don't eat a massive amount of blueberries. That probably wouldn't be good for anybody. But the foods, your body knows what to do with it, and they are totally safe. There are some foods, like there's some issues with soy, there's some issue with some foods. If your doctor says not to have a particular food during your treatment, then don't. There's lots of other foods out there. Don't put yourself in the middle of a controversy or drive yourself crazy. When you're eating, it should be an enjoyable, relaxed experience. There should not be that fear that we hear all the time. I'm too scared to eat. I don't know what to eat, because they're saying, don't eat red meat, don't eat dairy, don't eat soy, don't eat blueberry. And people come in and say, I am too scared to eat. That's just wrong. So what we do is encourage people, relax about eating. Let's eat real food. Let's eat whole food. Let's eat food that your grandmother and your great-grandmother ate. Stick to the whole foods that your body knows what to do with, because you need to nourish your body. And when you're on the cancer journey, your nutrient requirements are increasing. So you have to take your 3 square meals a day of whole, good foods and avoid the processed yuck foods and relax around it, because your body knows what to do with it. Does that answer your question?
What about frozen blueberries? Are those going to be?
They're fine. Actually, sure, because it's better to have frozen organic blueberries, I think, than to have non-organic blueberries that are fresh. So right now, the berries are just abundant, but they're not always. So fortunately, you can go to Trader Joe's and get organic frozen blueberries. Absolutely. It's wonderful, really nice in a smoothie. Any other questions?
Anybody wants seconds?
Yeah. Got sardine salad going on here. Hey, what was your best, how did you like the sardine salads the best? With radicchio, endive, or apple? Endive? Endive? You think the endive was the best? What about the apple?
I even would cut apple into the salad.
You'd cut apple into the salad. It's a good idea. Yeah, I like
And then eat
that.
it in the endive.
Huh?
And then put it in the endive.
Endive.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, put it in.
Put the endive in there. A little bit of a bitter, huh?
Yeah, put apple, cut the apple up in a sardine, and then put it in your endive.
And then put it in there. That's what she was saying. Yeah. Good idea.